And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane, and our guest is Shawn Sikora, Astrologer to the Stars. And we just had a little break, and we were talking. So you mentioned that there's an aspect right now that makes communication good.
For most people, yes. You could see if you go to my website, astrology1234.com.
What's that website
again? Astrology1234.com.
Thank you very much, yes.
On the home page, there's a little, off to the left, I believe, there's a little calendar, and it shows the positions of the planets currently.
Yes.
So you can look that up, and the most people know the moon glyph, our beautiful crescent
moon,
here.
Yes. Yeah.
So it'll show on there the moon glyph, and it'll say, it'll have some numbers of degrees it's at, and it'll show the sign it's at, which is Gemini here. And I got to put up a key list, but for a legend. But basically, actually, that's on my Facebook page, Shawn's Astrology, and you can link on there from the webpage.
Shawn'sAstrology.com?
Yeah. No, that's on the webpage. That's my fan page. But I have a picture of a legend up there. So basically, Gemini is a good communication sign.
Yes.
It's known as, it's Mercury. Mercury's one of the great communicators. If you do your, the guy with the little wings on his feet,
Mercury, yes.
He brings the flowers. No, that's another guy. But anyways, it's always about moving around in the general neighborhood and the people around you, close, siblings, and just communication in general. And when the moon's in Gemini, like you're saying that you felt the shows are going pretty good, we got a kind of a helper. Again, it's not influencing it. It's just a reflection. Mm-hmm. That's one way I like to look at astrology is you look in the pond, you see yourself. It's not exactly you, but there are a reflection in the mirror. You get a kind of feeling. So with the moon now it's what we know and love and desire in our own chart, but it also applies to the public and connects with everyone. And this country is a Cancer country, and the sun sign of Cancer is you have to look to the moon and see how it's cross-referencing. So the moon has a lot to do with how our country feels. So we're really tied in.
Wait, you're talking United States of America?
The U.S. chart. Yeah.
And how is this chart determined? How would it?
That's a debate at the time, but it was still, no matter what, it was still 4th of July was still Sun in Cancer.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. It has to do with the 4th. So the 4th of July is the birthday of the country.
Yeah, but people do other charts too. Anyways, I don't want to get all into that, but that's one chart we know. We celebrate the 4th of July, or the country's birth. That's one way you can learn about astrology in countries, because you're like, why is this country, maybe we'll get a North Korea one time or something. I don't know. I was starting to look at their chart, and I'm like, oh boy.
Huh.
But anyways, the moon is in Gemini. So when the moon's in Gemini, generally speaking, for everybody, it's really easy to communicate. It's a good time to catch up with your siblings, or just have light chat with people and relax and have a good time, or do just little trips, errands, and whatnot. Now, there's lots of things going. That's very general. Of course, like I talked about the last segment, we have Mercury square Pluto tomorrow,
right.
April 25th on Secretary's Day. So be extra nice to people, and those little trips. And on this particular situation, you might want to take a break and not do the trip, depending on how you're feeling. And I don't want to tell people what not to do, but just go by your own instincts. But
sure.
But anyways, generally speaking, Moon in Gemini. Here, it sounds like I have Moon in Gemini. I'm just talking and talking. So when you watch around, it's fun. You watch where the moon is, and then you go out, and it's like, wow, everyone's really chatty. Or the Gemini or the twins, young kids, or you'll see people with kind of the sugar bowl haircuts. They'll have like neat cut hair, and it's just a feeling, and it's really amusing and funny and interesting too. And it kind of gives you an idea what's happening, the energy. Like when the moon's in Aries, sometimes it's like a lot of women will be wearing red, and they're very they'll be slim and athletic and really action oriented. And then moon in Taurus, very voluptuous, beautiful, and they'll be dressed up more. Taurus likes nice things, that kind of thing. So you get a feeling of all the just the feeling of that moon. Again,
that's amusing.
Yeah, that's one factor, but that's kind of a nice general thing. And again, that's something you can just look on the website and see where that moon is, or find other locations. We have links and stuff, and you just start to pick the stuff up, and you're like, oh boy, everybody was in a rush today. Oh, the moon was in Aries. Of course they were in a rush,
Okay, yeah. That seems like it's just good to know.
Yeah. Again, it's a tool. It's not, it's not the answer to everything, but it's I hope to give as many answers as possible. But it's, again, we all learn and use it on whatever level we do. I mean, some of us just do sun sign astrology, some of us do more, some of us don't want to deal with it, but it's always nice to have an edge and get a general feeling what's going on.
Okay, now you mentioned that at this time, because of the signs, because of the planets, that there's a strain in relationships, that potential strain in relationships. Is that it?
Yeah, the Saturns always work really hard. You reap what you sow. You don't feel good enough about yourself. Saturn represents Capricorns. A lot of times they don't feel well. I always love to use, most people know Howard Stern, and the thing of, I heard him talk about his dad was hard on him.
Yes.
So he's like, I'll show you, and he worked really hard, and look what he's achieved. He didn't sit back. So the Saturn, the planet that rules working hard in Capricorn, that kind of mentality of not being good enough, it's in relationships. So that's coming out with a lot of people's relationships now. It's like, this isn't working, or this isn't good enough, or I don't feel good enough in this relationship. So instead of sitting back and going, oh, this sucks, it's like, what can I do to improve it? So we go back a layer and we see that it's ruled by, our back reference to the Venus, because the sign of Libra is ruled by Venus.
Okay.
Again, on this legend here.
Yeah.
And I'll make a note. I'll post some more stuff if people want to get into that. But so you see it's in Gemini now. So it is about communicating, but Gemini is kind of keeping it light. Gemini, the polarity is Sagittarius, and that's philosophical and college and doctorates and up on the soapbox and the preachers and that kind of stuff, and foreign intellect and looking at things differently. The Gemini is more local, and how it is in the hood and all your buddies and families and siblings, how you talk to them. It's a little more laissez-faire and kick back, and you keep it light. Geminis always give you a little smile or a little pat on the back, and just, It's okay, Josh.
Okay, good.
That kind of energy.
Okay, it's
so
good
it's
Gemini
like
energy.
It's like we have intense relationship stuff. Try just having a little small talk with people. Whatever works with them. You don't want to be placating or condescending, but just keep it light and see how that works.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that sounds like good advice, really.
Yeah.
And that's good advice for today and tomorrow, in general.
Yeah, that's actually the Saturn's going to be in there. We have till October as far as really working on relationships. It is challenging though. Like I said earlier, the Venus is squaring the Mars, the other relationship planet in Virgo, and they're both ruled by Mercury. Mercury. So without getting too convoluted, basically, there's a lot of thinking in our heads about these relationships.
Right.
And the Virgo Mercury energy is like people are working really hard and pushing it, and they're tired. Virgo does too much, and they're all mundane things and little tasks and minutia. So part of us, and that's the Mars. So the Yang kind of person in a relationship, it's just pushing it, and they're probably tired, and they're multitasking. So give them a little slack and a little, it's like, okay, I see what you're going through, and maybe that small talk is like, how is your day at work? Really, that's a basic relationship thing, and let them open up. And even if they're quiet, just give them a pause and give them some time. And the other flip is the Venus is the yin of the more feminine type energy. Is let them talk. So if you're the masculine, you're like, oh, I'm just working, I can't listen to you. Just take a moment and rest, and things come to you when you do rest. Even no matter how productive and pushing it in our society, it's like sometimes take a break, and you might get a clue, or your relationship will build as well. Just listen, and the more yin person in the relationship, or it can flip too. But there's going to be one person that's like working, one person just wants to talk. So keep it light and let again, when you're talking, whatever position you're feeling that energy, just keep it light and just have a nice conversation. And what's on TV, or what are we doing tomorrow, or
Okay.
how about a walk in the park?
That sounds like good advice. Sounds good. Like good advice. Sure.
Thanks. So that's, again, this is common advice, but astrology, I'm specifically tying into the energies. That's what people, because they'll say, oh, you could say that to anybody anytime. I sure could, but I'm focusing and using this as a grounding tool of just being harmonious to how, the sky's looking in the mirror. I look up in the mirror. How do I look? This is just the energy giving me an idea of, it's time to keep it light and understand that we're working too hard, and just try to make light of it. Just keep it easy.
And we have a couple minutes left. And for the weekend, once again, what's coming up for the weekend?
Well, I was actually, a weekend. I was going into next week. We have a Mercury sextile Venus. That's the third Thursday the 3rd of May. And what that means is you have to work at it, but those two planets are going to connect. So again, the Mercury is the communication planet. It's in Aries. It's pretty aggressive, and the Venus is in Gemini, so it's kind of just laying back and chit-chatting. But there's a nice aspect. So that Thursday, that might be the nice time to talk about planning the following weekend on the 5th and 6th. So that's a way the energy could play out too. It's like that's Thursday. Usually Thursday is like set up the date, or if you have something heavy to talk about, that actually could be a good time too, because it'll probably play a little nicer than usual. But you gotta the sextile is 60 degrees. You gotta kind of plan ahead and do a little work. Don't just do it spontaneously. Have a little preset focus or mantra or intent. I always use the word intention. Focus on how you want it to come out, and that's part of metaphysics. How do you want it to be? Great athletes, they picture themselves. Kobe sees that basket before he even makes it. The visual image,
right?
Intention, however you want to call it. It's like, how do you want it?
All right. Yeah. Well, Shawn Sakura, Astrologer to the Stars, I would like to thank you for doing our segment today, and which I'd like to call In the Present Position of the Planets with Shawn Sakura. And you're listening to Josh Lane, and this is Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Ness.